Hello, it's Thea. It's glad to see you back. I want to talk about some other things that happen other than these critical life cycles that I've spoken about so far. I think I covered those pretty clearly of specific. There are other planetary influences that affect how we're experiencing life. I'm recently and currently in the process of hoping to let go of this very last major transit that's been on me for almost 15 years. And the last 9 or 10 have been really tough. And I'm going to tell you what that's about. And because I was told by other astrologers, one in particular, when I talked about all the planet engagement in my natal chart that happened through Pluto over the last 15 years. It crossed over major places in my natal design, my cosmic connections, and that is my front door, what's called the front door, the ascendant, around my Mars, which is action, my North Node, which is probably how I got here. It said you will transform and work on your aspiration in this life. I had no idea this would be a part of it. It also then crossed over my Chiron, my woundedness. And so it touched into what I've talked about, that T-squares, or those ongoing challenges that I arrived here with and have worked with my whole life. But it was very difficult, and I had a lot of loss over those years. There was a 2-year period. And I spoke earlier about when I lost my father, and there was a 2-year period there that there were like 12 people and 1 dog, my beautiful Schnauzer Toto, all left within like a 2-year period. And it was just almost more loss than I could manage. And if I didn't know astrology and I didn't know that, oh, this is really hurting and that's my wound and I need to work on that, I can hold on to that. So I'm famously telling you this shall pass too, and here's a date. Well, I have one, the end of this year. All that massive transformation that I've been forced through as a gift, evidently, should really pass by, never to be visited again. And I tell this because Pluto is a transformational planet. Energy, it's an energy. We don't think about planets, and if you just think of it as energy that we're impacted by. Pluto is a very slow moving, 248 years around, and it doesn't touch on everybody's planets. It depends on how they're lined up. Well, I guess mine got lined up. So its passing has passed over, I think, 10 out of the 12 or 13 in my life. So my whole life has been about transformation. And it's taken a long time to really learn what that's about. And it's still not easy for me to say, and I am grateful. Now, I come with an age group that has this same transformation going on with their Chiron, because, Chiron usually hangs around on an average around 4 years in a sign. And anybody born during those times of my age are having the same experience. Whether they're aware of it and open to it and are feeling it, or just pushing through like we're taught to do because it's in Capricorn, which is ruled by that Saturn, the teacher, the disciplinarian, holding us in place. We just push through it. And I'm grateful for those people who can just push through it. I just have a lot of sensitivity, and I'm now sensitive even more to the energies. As a good friend of mine tells me, I think you spend too much in that astrology, you get lost. Well, I can get lost, and it's okay in the sense that I think I learn a lot and I can bring that back to be of service and purpose. My body said yes about that, and the Pluto piece is critical in everybody's life, and even more so in the country of which I reside, which is the United States. It's having a Pluto return in a few years. And we can see it happening. And I'll talk about that in a separate video. I'm happy to share what I know or believe. And the point I'm trying to make in this video is that there are other planetary influences, especially the slower moving planets, that impact us depending on where they are happening. And so there really is not well, some astrologers, this astrologer would tell you there's nothing that points to, oh, this is the death, this is what's happening, this is death in life. I just don't believe that that's predictable, because there's free will. But what I do know is there's opportunities to leave. And I've tracked that through some of the people in my life and what was happening on the day. You know, as I say, you can't make this up. On the day that they transitioned. And, you know, and I can share in my own personal life, I tracked both my parents, and they both had Pluto make a challenge to their Mercuries, or just said, okay, their mind, Mercury, their mental processes were transformed, and they were gone. And it's individual, the ones that I've researched, and I can't put that on everybody, but I do know that, and I'll go back to what that other astrologer told me about all that Pluto passing over all those planets, especially the ascendant and the Mars and the North Node. And she looked at me and she says, you know, a lot of people don't make it through that. And I said, yeah, I get it. And so I'm sharing with you now, I'm still in a cycle that is very, very challenging. And I'm willing to do the work. I guess I volunteered, and here I am. And I'm ready and available to talk to people individually if you want to contact me about cycles in your own life, especially if you're struggling, and not just about suicide, but struggling with things just seem a little hard now. And that's everybody. We are in the middle of a pandemic, or we're supposed to be getting out of a pandemic, and we don't know. There's a big picture about that. I'm not going to talk about that here, but it is important that we each own our part. We each have a part, even though we're in it together. And I guess the pandemic might have been a good example of everybody being impacted, kind of stopped and said, look at what works and what doesn't work. So the planets, and I'm talking about Pluto, literally the country, our country, the United States, is having a transformational period. That means things will change. Hopefully that's for the better. You know, when you think about it, I talk about natal charts and individuals, but there are charts for events, there are charts for countries, there are charts for anything that has an initiation date. And then the cycles begin. I just don't know of a better tool that does the psycho-spiritual science piece. And the other planets, what we call the outer planets, the slow-moving planets, Pluto being the longest, Neptune is 168 years around, so you don't experience that all the way around your chart or your design. Uranus is 84 years, and so planets are elliptical. They're not equal. Like, okay, 248 years means there should be, you know, what is that? 12 signs, so that's 40 years in each sign. Doesn't happen that way. It's elliptical, so some signs it's only there a few years, like Aries, I think it's not. And then other signs it's there a long time. Like it's been, I think Capricorn is like 18 years it's going to be have spent there, impacting our lives in a very organizational, structured, governments, institutions, all of that's impacted. So the key is that it's unique. And if you take a quarter of each one of those slower moving planets, like I've talked about Uranus and its cycle, and I said around 42, we get an opposite. Well, and that's why it's a little different sometimes for individuals or generations, because it's an elliptical planet, and on average it spends 8 years, 7 or 8 years in a sign. But even though it's a science, it's not exact. Like, it's not exact for you and exact for me. And so, but every 21 years, you'll have a hit from it, because it's gonna, every a fourth, that's on average, 21 years. That's why we see people struggling at 21, and then again at 42, and then, 64, 63, 21, 42, 63. Me, the mathematician. No more. My point being is that at those age groups, or age cycles, and it can be different. So, and then of those three, they have they hit in areas that challenge us, and then they hit in areas that support us. And knowing which is happening when helps us to make decisions in a more proactive way. And I do this video mainly because I want to talk about those outer planets and how much they impact our lives. And the important part is to know that it's all kind of in design. That's why I call it our cosmic connections, our cosmic design. Not that I don't respect astrology as a word, and it's that what I've discovered in my work, especially with the younger generations, they relate to cosmic connections or cosmic design more so than astrology. And that's just because it's a word that's been used for a long time. I've heard from other people in other countries that it's just a joke. And I'm like, they really need to be convinced. Well, I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm just here to offer information. So if you want to talk to me, contact me through divinelyone.org. And if you have some questions, please put them below. And I would appreciate your comments, and I'll be back. Thank you, and namaste.